There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the Evil FB Network YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face. Of course, we'll join the mighty at 1490 a.m. as we do at the bottom of the hour, and we should have Susan Shelley on. A lot of people love to hear Susan and her analysis of her columns in the week and everything else politico going on. Peeps are pissed. They are pissed in Ontario over the Mayor Pro Tem, Alan Wapner, and the recent revelations that his house was being raided along with Kurt. No, I drew a blank. Kurt Hagman. Kurt Hagman, the San Bernardino County Supervisor, was also raided, and James Su, the big Chi-Com broadcaster. Ashley Zavala has some breaking news on the Baccaria, Bontas, and the ever-including scandals that seem to continue surrounding those two commie-libs roasting Newsom, not only in California, from California across the nation. We'll get to that and much, much more, but as Ayn Rand put out, there's no difference between communism and socialism except the means of achieving the same ultimate end. Communism proposes to enslave you by force. Socialism by vote. It's merely the difference between murder and suicide, Ayn Rand in 1962. Well, here we are 46 years later, as they say. And here we go with the same bunch of bull crap. We got Zoran Mondami taking the California cancer and importing it to New York City. Here he is on the grocery stores. He's going to discount everything. He's going to buy the products and then take 30% off. Take a 30% loss. One guy, Will, says, how does that prevent? How do you prevent somebody from walking in your 30% discount grocery store, buying out the store? Hell, they can jump at 15%, which is like a windfall, which is 5 times more than any grocery store makes, and still undercut the regular stores by 15%. How genius is that going to work? We thought he was going to work. Well, I think we may have him now. Are always much
fun. Basket.
So our RFP makes very clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. I'm going to pass it over to our EDC head, Jeep.
Boy, I don't want that hot potato. It must have been 10,000 million degrees. Didn't think of that one. The interesting part the intrigue gets even better as we rock and roll through this. As he passes off the 10 gazillion degree football after the reporter asked it. The executive staffer says this.
Back to add some additional details.
Yes, if you look at our RFP for the operator, we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card-esque thing, and also...
We're going to target New Yorkers with a library-esque thing, I think is the last word she just said. She didn't want to say we're going to require ID to shop in the grocery store that you are a New York resident. Which was the deal. How can you prevent not only New York, hey, dudes from Newark, New Jersey roll up there to the Madami grocery store, buy it at a 32% discount, which you can't get from your wholesaler. You're buying it cheaper from Madami than you are your wholesaler. What's to prevent this? Oh, we're going to library-esque card. That means ID, you ignorant seed. And you darn well know. Let's back that up a tad. Here we go.
that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card-esque thing, and also we manage who's buying, and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers. So we are mindful of that, and so we're going to make sure that we have all the things in place to make.
We are mindful of that. How are you going to do this? How are you going to prevent Mr. Fentanyl blowed out his brain, can't function, just wants to get drugs? Walk in there 30% discount. Walk right out the door wheeling his basket full of goodies from the Mondami grocery store. And then pop here, hey, somebody just, he gets, let's say he gets $300 worth, let's say $500, dude gives him $550 for it, pays 10% more, he don't care, he made $50, he can get a shot of fentanyl for whatever, a week, or a day, I don't even know how much that stuff costs. Little Missy, the communist, Mandami, the communist, are going to screw you blue, rude, and tattooed. And as Ayn Rand said 64 years ago, no difference between communism and socialism, except the commies are going to do it by force. They're just going to come over and take it. They're going to point a gun at you and take it. The socialist is going to do it by, let's import a bunch of poor people in there and tell them we're going to give them something. Who are they going to vote for? As she said, it's merely the difference between murder and suicide. But you're still dead. We'll explore this, of course, the whole Ontario fiasco where the people were extremely pissed at the mayor pro tem over the recent FBI raids. Susan and Shelley and much, much more on today's show. They were hot on the collar on good old Alan Wapner, longtime cop. City councilman, I think school board member there in Ontario. It's very interesting. And again, the whole Chino, Kurt Hagman supervisor, Arcadia, Lancaster, I believe, all has this Chinese communist theme or money, it appears, allegedly, behind all this. This was the city council meeting last night in Ontario where they had their first crack at Alan Wapner, mayor pro tem. who was part of the Assaili FBI raids. Here we go.
Fireworks at tonight's City Council meeting in Ontario. It was the first public meeting since FBI agents raided the homes of several prominent businesses and elected leaders.
That's right. CBS LA's Leslie Marin live tonight in Ontario, where there are calls for the mayor pro tem to step down. Leslie?
Good evening, Susie and Juan. I could tell you residents here are asking for accountability and transparency. Now, we did try to speak to the mayor pro tem, but he denied an interview with us. Once this meeting started, though, he had plenty to say.
When the mayor is speaking, you need to let them speak.
Be quiet and sit down.
It was a heated Ontario City Council meeting tonight, just a week after the FBI served a search warrant at Mayor Pro Tem Alan Wapner's home.
I never believe the suspect, a subject, a target of any investigation.
Wapner spoke only briefly about the FBI raid during the meeting.
They did search the house. We don't know what they were searching for.
Last Tuesday, FBI agents served several search warrants across SoCal, including.
We gotta get the Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Hero. I know nothing. I mean, why do we even have city council meetings, school boards, county supervisors? Why don't we just put up there, and when the agenda comes up, they can all say, I know nothing. I have no idea. Don't play. How come we hear this so often? Fauci 111 times. I plead the Fifth Amendment because I might incriminate myself. I think, my opinion, you've already incriminated yourself way more than 111 times. Probably 111 gazillion, but here's more. From the Wapner report at the Ontario City Council where people were pissed.
Including at Wapner's home and the home of San Bernardino County Supervisor Kurt Hagman. Federal agents also served a subpoena at the Ontario International Airport. Both men are on the board of the Ontario International Airport Authority.
I don't know, looking for some records. I have no idea what records they are, but I know that my name wasn't included in those subpoenas.
We want accountability and transparency.
Several Ontario residents came out to demand Wapner step down from his governing positions.
You need to go. Straight up. You need to go.
We'll wait for due process, but I think that it's going to make it very, very difficult to govern. I do think you should step down.
While others showed support.
So, big ol' Alan Wapner, Mayor Pro Tem, people said, hey, you need to go. I think people's frustration with all of this, I don't know anything. I never did anything wrong. I can keep doing whatever. Never question anything I've been doing, even though there have been questions about Wapner for decades. Here we go.
War for Wapner.
But a search is not an accusation. It is not a finding of wrongdoing, and to my knowledge, no accusation of Mr. Wapner has been made.
The FBI hasn't confirmed what they were looking for because the warrants are sealed. Wapner has served on the council for more than 30 years and is also running for mayor.
I'll take a recess and discuss this with Mr. City Attorney. Can you please explain? Let's take a recess. I'm sorry.
But tonight, Mayor Paul Leone, who is running for re-election, called for the city to begin looking into removing Wapner from any board or committee he's currently on. The council, despite being divided, did vote in favor of the idea.
It's not about rushing to judgment. It's about operational focus of the City of Ontario and the agencies that he sits on.
So the next city council meeting is in 2 weeks. That's when they will decide if Wapner will be removed from his position, including his position as mayor pro tem. But no matter what is decided, he will still be on the city council. Reporting live from Ontario.
So there you have a little civics lesson. The Ontario City Council in 2 weeks, which should be a lively meeting, as they say, will vote to, which they can do, they can strip him of the mayor pro tem title if he's on the public safety committee or whatever, the paint your toenails pink committee or whatever garbage these elected officials. This went through the whole commissions and crapiola. It's just how they do. That's the deep fake. Well, you know, we'll run. The commission said, holy cow. Ashley Zavala, the great KCRA3 reporter, has some more vital information on the Baccaria scandal. Sentencing postponed for Baccaria's ex-chief of staff Sean McCluskey, now set for October 1st. McCluskey has pleaded guilty in the federal case involving Baccaria's stolen campaign funds. Lobbyist Greg Campbell, who is also involved, is also to be sentenced that day. Why the postponing of the sentencing of Dana the Hammer Williamson, chief of staff for Gavin Newsom, which has pled guilty in this case, Sean McCluskey, Greg Campbell, and to tell me Baccaria had no idea 250 grand was going out illegally on his campaign funds when he wasn't even campaigning? You know, and then there's the whole Oakland deal where Rob Bonta comes from, where he was assemblyman, now his wife Mia Bonta's assemblywoman. And the whole dongs and the trash and the money in Shangtao. Bonta taking $500K out of his campaign account, paying it for lawyers. When the FBI or whatever investigative agency was asking questions, 500 grand to copy some documents. He dumped off of being mayor, then said, oh, I'm going to run for attorney general again. The governor's race, maybe he thought he could protect himself and had a better shot at getting reelected attorney general, and then he would have more protection. What's really interesting, though, is the sentencing's all going to come up about in and around the time the election for governor is going to heat up. Very interesting timing. Again, the great Ashley Zavala pointed out the absolutely running for cover Javier Baccaria. He made his first public appearance and he was running like a dog from the press. Let's see if the video will play. Here we go.
Welcoming Elsie Pacheco, who's going to speak about her mother's experience as a Spanish speaker. Welcoming Elsie Pacheco, who's going to speak about her mother's experience as a Spanish speaker.
There's Baccaria running. Will not answer questions from the press. What sort of clown is this? Here's more from the Ash.
You called Proposition 39 and attempt to interfere with the vote.
Secretary, your challenger, Steve Hilton, has challenged you to a series of debates. Can we just get your reaction to the challenge? Will you be accepting, Secretary?
Yeah, we'll be doing a debate. Yeah, we'll be doing lots of debates as a...
How many debates? So you are accepting the challenge by your opponent?
Secretary, on Proposition 39, can you just quickly expand on why you said it's an attempt to interfere on the vote? Secretary? Secretary,
Can you answer why you're against voter ID? The one you did answer, he said there's going to be lots of debates. Oh, I hope so. Not that I think it may... If Steve Hilton's got any slight sort of chance, that will be it, because every time Javier Baccaria opens his mouth, he sounds like a bumbling idiot, much less this whole corruption thing. I think Newsom's up to his eyeballs in it. My opinion. So is Baccaria. They didn't cook up this scheme with Dana the Hammer Williamson, Sean McCluskey, Newsom's and Baccaria's chief of staff. It's absolutely the fraud meter's going off the scale. In this one, Gavin Newsom, skewered by Los Angeles liberals and presidential attack ads taking billions away, by Titus Wu in the newly aforementioned California Post. Los Angeles-based Streets for All, which advocates for more public transportation and less reliance on oil, the evil oil, has announced running a series of blistering newspaper ads that blast the governor in Columbia, South Carolina, and Reno, Nevada. Both locations are early primary states which could sway who wins the Democratic presidential nomination in 2008. The commie-libs, the Chi-Com probably allegedly financed, Los Angeles-based Streets of LA. Oil is evil. That oil that you're using to propel your car, to build all the products and supply them and deliver them to you, to run your air conditioners, make life. Energy is the key, to a high standard of living. If you take away the energy, we are back to Neanderthal man, living in a cave with a club. I find it very interesting that the commie-libs the communists, the DSA, the kooks, are ruling the roost. Although they're losing control a little bit, they almost, El Said or whatever their Senate candidate is in Michigan, almost lost because actually the Democrat machine, all of a sudden, she gets a whole bunch of mail-in, but she's winning the mail-in ballots like crazy. Sound like Nithya Raman? They would rather have Nithya Raman than Spencer Pratt, mind you, in LA. But when you see Chucky Schumer and the Democrats, James Carville, the old guard, what's left of them Democrats, and they're getting nervous as heck, and they're trying to pull the levers This goes to prove the voter fraud. And it's a lot, not saying the machines don't work. It's been a lot the old-fashioned way. Oh, we found this box of ballots over here, sitting in the corner. Dang, we forgot to count. You know, Fred over there mistakenly put this big old box. He was supposed to put him over in aisle 14, shelf 92, and, oh, for whatever reason, maybe he had to go take a piss or something. And he stacked him over here in the corner. Well, we got to count him now. Wow, 111% of them are for Biden. How did that work? As Ayn Rand said, the difference between communism and socialism is the difference between force and the vote. Communism comes by quickly because they're using the force of the gun. By vote, they're playing the long game, the Chi-Coms. The Middle East crazies. Whatever, however you want to define them. They're playing the long game. And so far, they're chipping away. Look at where the votes are coming. Your traditional Democrat, working class, lunch pail toting, voted for the standard Democrat in Michigan. Who votes for the communist? Educated, college educated, especially whites. Well, yeah, they're looking at now having this $100,000 debt, can't buy a car, can't buy a home, can't start a family, can't enjoy life. Yeah, they're pissed. And they have a right to be. They were sold, you know, back in the day, when you got an engineering degree or a medical doctor degree, or even a teaching credential. You know, you got a BA in teaching or whatever. It actually meant it meant that you met a minimum, even a high school diploma, trade school. You met a minimum set of qualifications that people could have confidence in. Look at the guy at UCLA Medical Center, one of the top medical schools in all the world. He said, you're in a heap of trouble. Half the students are graduating don't know what a stethoscope is for. They're dumber than crap. And it's all, remember, equity, diversity, inclusion, Roy's an evil white hillbilly, straight white male evil. This is the whole rhetoric they have been selling. They have to sell fear and hate. The difference, communism coming in by force. How'd they get your vote under socialism and create fear, hate, and division? Oh, we're going to take 30% of, or 50%, or all of this person's money, and then we're going to provide you a grocery store and cut the bill 30%. Well, as of Venezuela, the latest example, oh, we got all this oil money coming in. If it costs a loaf of bread costs $1 to produce, we're going to sell it for 40 cents. Well, in the beginning, it worked out okay. And pretty soon, there was no money to provide or pay for the people that were building and delivering, making, I guess I should say, the bread. Because not enough money was coming in to pay for the bread, the oil money, everything. Then we added on this program and that program and this, that, and the other. Pretty soon there's not enough money to pay for any of all of these subsidies, as they say. It's taking from somebody else by force and giving it to another person. Whether you call it communism, socialism, or anything, got to dig out the old 40s deal of the isms. Whenever you see ism, 98.7% of the time you better be grabbing your ankles, because you know what's coming next. Why people cannot, or why the majority? Well, it is. It's easy to sell hate and fear, and that causes the division. You're not going to take something from somebody you like, but if you make them the boogeyman, the hated individual, Satan the devil himself standing there with 2 pitchforks, with a torch ready to put it on your hiney and burn you to the ground to support him. Oh, you're going to say, well, that can't happen. And this man says, I'm here to save you, whether that be Hitler or Stalin or Mondami, Idi Amin, Castro.
20 seconds, 20 seconds.
It's all the same story. The song remains the same, and the result does too. We'll be back. Hopefully Susan Shelley will come on in the next half hour. We'll get
2 seconds. Here we go.
her columns and
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
there's that funky slide guitar music. Comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the 4-inch AM band. Join our vast video audience in the evil Epi Network YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire Roy Blacker. You'll see my nice smiling, shining face. Subscribe, do all that good stuff. Went through with the Mondami deal and the elections last night in Michigan and Wisconsin. Ayn Rand 64 years ago said it best. Absolutely said it best. And there's no difference between communism and socialism except the means of delivering the ultimatum and the end to you. Communism proposes to enslave you by force, socialism by vote. It's merely the difference between murder and suicide. But dead is dead. They sell hate, fear, and division. Yeah, you get this. Look at that evil face right there. Right there. Oh, you go take. There's a reason every ill in the world is that we just take it from him and give it to you. Oh yeah, the vast majority say yes. Even the hardline Democrats have lost track of that today. The Ontario people were mighty upset at Mayor Pro Tem Alan Wapner. His first public meeting at the City Council where he's a member. And they weren't real happy with the FBI raids at his house, and they let him know that the council voted to strip him at the next meeting, or voted to put on the agenda to strip him of his title of Mayor Pro Tem. All, all his committees and everything, but
Susan's on the line with you.
That all works out. We'll see how that comes about. The whole Javier Baccaria, Rob Bonta, the scandals keep continuing. The commie-libs are protesting. Gavin Newsom and running ads against him in South Carolina and Nevada because they are pissed at him. They say he's a big oil supporter. The comedy of this is something else. But as we usually do on a Wednesday, we have the famed editorial writer columnist from the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts. More important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to iNewsWire, Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
It's something intriguing of how L.A. kook progressives, ding-dongs as I call them, they're on Gavin Newsom's case. They're on Karen Bass's case. They're on Nithya Raman's case. They burn down your towns, tax you to death. This whole deal with Javier Bacari and Dana the Hammer Williamson and McCluskey, getting their sentences postponed till the election. Rob Bono with the dongs and the trash and the $500,000 in investigations. How do people... What's intriguing is how people disconnect and still vote. They still vote and support in California these clowns by 60%. Make some sense of this for me, Susan Shelley.
Well, I suppose you'd have to put yourself in the mindset of a person who doesn't read real news, that just catches it on TikTok or a few minutes on CNN or one of the local television stations. And if you do that, you never hear how corrupt they are. You only hear all the wonderful things that they're doing. And the other side gets no coverage at all, except if they want to slam Trump. And then they say, yes, this person is a Trump clone, a Trump something. And if that's all you hear, and then it's, news and sports, weather and sports rather, that's how you could be in that mindset. The coverage is terribly unfair and people are not really following it. And then they get this stuff in the mail that says, here's who we're voting for. And it's some Democratic slate mailer. And they vote for all those names. Or someone comes to their door and says, I'm here to pick up your ballot. Would you like to vote right now here in the doorway while I look over your shoulder? And I think that explains a lot of it.
What another intriguing part to me is, well, like with the homeless, going up in Los Angeles. And it went up, 3%? And Karen Bass, first words out of her mouth, it's Trump's fault.
Exactly.
I mean, where do people start putting the disconnect in California, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, in Daly City, in Moreno Valley, in Temecula, take it, Visalia, I don't care what. When do people start putting it together that it's the people you're electing, your city councils, your county supervisors, your school districts, your state legislature, stupid governor, corrupt secretary, corrupt attorney general, and on, that you keep electing at a 60% clip? When do you stop this self-abuse, I guess, is my question, Susan.
Well, I don't think they can. I don't think people who are voting for these terrible candidates are hearing enough of the other story. If you go back to the 2016 Trump campaign and think about how different it was on the issue, let's just take immigration. It was different on a lot of things, different on terrorism, but it was different especially on immigration. Instead of reacting to the killing of an illegal immigrant by allowing it to be reported once and then moving on, Trump talked about it at his rallies. Trump invited the families, the victims, to the rallies. Trump talked about it incessantly on Twitter. He forced that issue into the mainstream news, and people in the news business were furious at him over it. Well, we don't want to talk about that. Well, it's too bad. He's making you talk about it. He's running for president. It's on his Twitter. It's at his rally. People are showing up and waiting in line for 2 days to hear him speak. You have to talk about it. If we had that in Los Angeles, if you had someone like Spencer Pratt who was in the race, he would be doing that to Karen Bass. He would be talking daily about the terrible incidents happening in the homeless encampments and the terrible risk to life and limb that's going on there, not to mention how it affects businesses and the community and school children and everybody else. Guess what? Spencer Pratt was mysteriously outvoted from second place into third place by a completely unpredicted surge of votes for the third place candidate instead of the other Democrat, the incumbent mayor. No one can explain why more people voting late voted for Nithya Raman than Karen Bass, but Spencer Pratt's off the playing field. So now we're back at the roses and unicorns. Everything's just wonderful. Karen Bass will say, oh, yes, it's terrible that homelessness increased. It's Trump's fault. And what do the reporters say? Nothing. Nothing. And there's no one to force the issue, to make them say it.
Another thing is Ashley Zavala from KCRA 3 up Sacramento, and a few reporters finally caught Baccaria. He's coming out of the Capitol or whatever, and that. And they're asking him questions. One in Sussex guy kept asking him, why are you against Prop 39 in California voter ID? That, and he won't say anything, yada, yada, yada. As far as I know, he has not come out of a position on Prop 43, the Save Prop 13 Act. And he did one little snippet that I'm going to be very surprised if he holds to. Somebody asked him, are you going to do debates? And he said, lots of them. And we can only hope that happens. I can't see from a political strategy from his point where that would come out very well from him. But the whole cover-up, like with the McCluskey, Jana the Hammer Williamson, they took $250,000 out of my dormant campaign account. I had no idea, but I knew Sean McCluskey was making less money as my chief of staff coming of here. And, did McCluskey, the conversation with McCluskey never went, hey, Baccaria, I'm making more working for you in California and can make more here. You want me to go work for you for less? When does that happen? And then all of a sudden the enhancement coming in, I don't know nothing about it and all this stuff. Again, with this stuff, when do the walls start closing in on these crooks and thieves who've been running our government for so long, Susan?
Not until there are indictments of them. The press is going to ignore it, and they're going to excuse it, and they're going to look the other way to avoid helping a Trumpster, which is they just define that as everyone who's not a Democrat at this point. So it's not going to change. In my opinion, it's not going to change until there are literally handcuffs on some of these corrupt politicians. You would think that having their chief of staff in handcuffs would be enough, but it's not, apparently, because he can keep walking around saying, I had no idea. Well, motive means opportunity. You had that. So what is going on here? And then people talk about the dormant campaign account. Regular voters don't have any idea what that is or how corrupt that is in itself, that these politicians in California are legally allowed to open up a campaign account for something they have no intention of running for 6 years from now, and just transferring vast amounts of money from an existing campaign account into it, just parking the money for the future, whatever they decide to do. And that's the kind of account that was looted for this purpose. And probably that's the reason that the account was set up, so it could be looted for this purpose. But it's not legal. And the Trump Justice Department didn't let it go. The Biden Justice Department probably would have let it go. They would have stalled and investigated till the statute of limitations was passed, and nothing would have happened. How many times have we seen that? But the Trump people wouldn't let it go. And until there are handcuffs on Gavin Newsom, Gavin Newsom's wife, maybe even that wouldn't help. Maybe it has to be Gavin Newsom personally, and Javier Becerra, and anyone else who is corrupt. And there have been quite a few, but for some reason it doesn't really seem to stick to the political machine. It's going to have to be the big people in the political machine who wind up in handcuffs in order to end it.
Switching gears, starting with your columns of the week, socialist grocery stores are coming to New York City. Susan Shelley.
I think this is great news because socialists get a lot of mileage by campaigning on how wonderful it's going to be when they can finally implement their policies the right way. So here's Zoran Mamdani in New York trying to implement socialist grocery stores. So they send out a request for proposals looking for a grocery store operator to take over these 5 stores or some of them, because obviously the people that Mamdani is working with in this government have no idea how to run a business, even a lemonade stand. So they don't know what to do. So they have this, I think it's 64 pages of orders and directives and scope and restrictions and requirements for the grocery store operators. And some of them involve you have to be aligned with our economic justice and social justice goals. Well, what does that mean? You line up the orange juice in a particular form. I don't know what that means, be aligned with economic justice goals. Lots of stuff about paying all the employees a better than living wage to support a family. Lots of stuff about requiring the grocers to make sure that the shelves stay stocked. How? Well, we don't have any idea, because if you load up a grocery store and mark down the groceries below cost, people are going to sweep in like some UN truck just pulled up to a refugee camp overseas, and it's just going to be mobbed with people taking all the stuff off the shelves. In 6 minutes they'll be empty. Well, they're not going to let that happen, because the grocery store operator will be responsible for figuring that out. How? We don't know. So it's going to fail, and it's going to fail spectacularly, and that is a good thing, because everyone will see that they've been sold a bill of goods, that capitalism works and fills the shelves, and socialism is nothing but a grift.
1000%. We ran earlier the clip of Mondami being asked the question, well, if you're going to take and buy all this stuff and discount it 30%, what's stopping somebody from coming in, buying it? The chain stores, if I was, a chain grocer or a mom and pop grocery store, I can't even buy this stuff wholesale from my supplier anywhere close to that price. I'm going to be rolling up there that, and he ducked that question, sent it off to one of his executive staffers, and she made the comment, well, we're going to have she didn't want to say ID, we're going to have a library-esque card or something to do that. But if you ask for voter ID from Mondami, New York, Baccaria, here or that in California, you're a racist. So is it racist to ask for an ID to shop in the racist, communist New York Mondami grocery store, Susan?
Well,
Shelley?
It's just not going to work, and you've just identified another reason. I mean, not only could people come from the neighborhood grocer and buy it all up as if it's wholesale, not only that, but people could come from upstate New York, they could come from New Jersey, they could come from other places. People who are not New York City residents could come and shop for subsidized groceries in the New York City stores. There's 8.5 million people who live in the city, and many more millions of people who live in the other areas nearby. It's just obviously not going to work. And if they're going to have grocery ID to buy groceries, but they can call it a library card, but whatever it is, it can certainly be counterfeited. Everything can. So I think it's just a preposterous, hilarious idea.
I think the Democrats are getting, the old guard Democrats, James Carville, Chuck Schumer, a lot of the old ones they're getting pushed out. They tried to save a congresswoman, and with what? She got a whole bunch of mail-in ballots. I think I'm back there. My mic went crazy. They're trying to hold her to prop her up because they did get another communist nominated for senator in Michigan and elsewhere of that. The Democratic Party, the old, let's say liberal, centrist, whatever, they're seeing their futures going down the tubes, and they're getting nervous. They're even trying to pull the levers on this. It seems that this radical DSA part is really getting a stronghold, working through the old Democratic Party, and as you said, with what's happening in our elections and everything, it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzy, Susan.
Well, I think you're right. They're trying to take over as many of these races as they can, as long as they're in some sort of a legislative position and they're outnumbered by the rest of the legislators. They can rant and they can talk about how their ideas are better and all this stuff. It's never tested. But if they're going to be stupid enough to run for something where they actually can implement their policies, like Mom Donnie just did, it's going to crash and burn spectacularly. And thank goodness, because someone like Bernie Sanders has been in the Senate for a gazillion years, ranting the same rant about oligarchs and billionaires. Meanwhile, in California, the oligarchs are the unions and the billionaires are leaving, and socialism doesn't work. So this is the message to get out. Let them try. It won't last long.
Your other column, why Anthony Fauci is still pleading the fifth, Susan Shelley.
Well, here's another story that the press has not covered well at all, and that is that Anthony Fauci lied to the American people over and over again. And he was so influential that when he would say something on television, governors like Gavin Newsom would go off that interview alone to close schools, bars, and restaurants. That's how California got shut down. Gavin Newsom saw Anthony Fauci on television, didn't even call him, didn't ask for a briefing, didn't have any questions, immediately shut everything down with an emergency order. People lost their businesses, people lost their educations, people lost their minds. This was disgusting. And it's all in Anthony Fauci's own words in his diary, which Rand Paul on the Senate Homeland Security and Government Oversight Committee has released publicly. And you can find it at paul.senate.gov/reading room, I think it is. But paul.senate.gov for his website, where he has released all these files, all these emails, all this nonsense that the guy wrote for years. And if you remember back, whatever your own personal experience was during the pandemic and the restrictions that caused you problems, you can correlate the dates, and you can see that they didn't know what they were doing. They were lying to the public. They were lying about masks. They were lying about distancing. They were lying about origin. They were lying about the efficacy of the vaccine. And the worst part of this story, as bad as it all is, and it's all terrible, is that there were lots of scientists who knew better and who were arguing with what the government was doing. And Anthony Fauci led an effort to destroy them, to ruin their careers, to get them fired, to get them denounced, to get all kinds of professional consequences to discredit them. Now, some of them are currently in the government working for President Trump, and that's a wonderful thing. They're excellent. But if we had been allowed to hear the true debate instead of having it censored, and I'm not talking about censoring people in their Facebook groups, which was bad enough. This is censoring scientists from Stanford, from Oxford, from Harvard, people who were premier in their fields, doctors who were on the front line treating patients, and Anthony Fauci trying to destroy their careers and their lives and their credibility. The man should be in prison. Prison's too good for him. And you bet he took the fifth. You bet.
I can only hope that I've said Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci should be behind bars in solitary confinement until the day he's looking at the roots of the grass. We got a couple minutes left. I want to give you an opportunity to tell them why they should be voting yes on Prop 43, the Save Prop 13 Act, and why they should join HJTA Go.
It is my distinct privilege and honor and pleasure to tell you that Proposition 43 is something good on the November ballot. Yes, on 43, this is the Local Taxpayer Protection Act to save Proposition 13, and it will restore the 2/3 vote requirement for local taxes, local special taxes when the money is earmarked. That's what the Constitution says now, but the courts carved a loophole, and through that loophole, many tax increases have been allowed to pass with less than the 2/3 vote requirement. We're closing that loophole. We are making it harder to raise your taxes. That's Proposition 43. Vote yes if you would like to get a yard sign, if you'd like to get door hangers, if you would like to get notepads and campaign buttons. We've got all that stuff coming in as we speak. The boxes are being dropped at my doorstep, and all of our offices in Sacramento and Los Angeles. Many other locations will have signs and stuff. So send an email to HJTA if you want to get some of it. That's info@hjta.org. And we will get you set up to go knock on a few doors in your neighborhood and spread the word to vote yes on 43.
I got my campaign signs too, so you guys are efficient in getting the job done, because the campaign's going to be absolutely. I and I got about 30 seconds. Do you know of any opposition that's coming up against us, or have you got a sense of it yet? Did we lose Susan?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. No.
Okay.
Did you? About 30 seconds. But is there any forces coming out on No on 43 that you know of?
Oh, sure. The firefighters are against us. All the cities will probably be against us. All the unions will be. Everybody who wants to raise your taxes through a shortcut is going to be against us. But we don't care, because we're going to make it harder to raise taxes. And once we put that message out, there isn't going to be much of a fight against it. People do not want their taxes to be raised, and they certainly don't want any shortcuts to do it.
Okay, thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do this again next week.
Thank you. Thanks, Roy.
Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. It's going to be, again, I wanted to get that out there just so, yeah, firefighters, probably teachers, SEIU government employees are going to be out on the No for 43 campaign. So it's not going to be like, oh, we can just, because it's Howard Jarvis or that, we're going to have an easy roll. And we did get it on the ballot despite Newsom and Cruz every effort to get it punched off, remove Karen Bass and all that. We had to, or HGTA, John Coppell had to make some compromises just to get that on there, but it's there. And that's the importance of getting your rear end out there and getting your friends and neighbors and relatives and enemies and everyone else engaged in this election. And why the vote is important. We don't need no more Bacarias or Newsoms. Look, the commulibs are PO'd at him. For stupid reasons, but when do we stop this self-abuse? Especially in California, that we've been doing for far too long. I would at least have a little respect for Baccaria if he'd say, hey, I think you're a bunch of racists for voting, for requiring voter ID. Put it out there. Mandami, say, hey, we're not gonna have any IDs. That's racist. Like with voter ID. No, well, you're not gonna come into my grocery store that I'm discounting 30% without an ID because, well, if it's racist to ask for an ID to vote, why is it racist? Why isn't it racist to ask for an ID to shop in your grocery store, Mandami? The future is going to be very interesting. Hopefully, more people will get their heads out of the sand. And quit doing the self-abuse. You can't blame everyone else. That'll do it for today. We usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here in 23 hours wide. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
All right, have a great night.
Yeah, we need to work on that deal of getting that. I want to work on that so like when I do Kelly Victory on Monday, Sean can do that, the Zoom thing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
If we can put the picture, if we can get them like on video here while that instead of me putting a picture up, that would be helpful.
Does Kelly Victory want to go on camera?
I don't see why not. She's on camera everywhere else.
That is true.
Unless she's just camera shy with not going on with me, which is quite possible. But hell, I see her all over the place. So.
All right. I should be able to get out around 3 o'clock on Friday.
Okay, that should work unless something else comes up. But yeah, we'll kind of plan on that.
All right, cool. I'll talk to you later.
You got it.
Bye.